My wife started deleting her messages every night before bed. I never said anything. I just quietly called her phone carrier instead. 3 weeks later, her own phone bill handed me the whole affair on a silver platter. If you're new here, hit subscribe, because these stories only get crazier from here, and you don't want to miss the next one. I'm Derek, 33, married to Melissa, 31, for 6 years, together for 9. If you'd asked me 8 months ago how my marriage was doing, I'd have said solid. Not perfect, nobody's is, but solid. We had a routine. Dinner together most nights. A mortgage we were actually keeping up with. A golden retriever named Biscuit who ruled the house, and the kind of comfortable quiet that you only get after almost a decade with someone. Then, around 8 months ago, I noticed something small. Every night, right before bed, Melissa would sit on her side of the bed, thumb scrolling through her phone, and then swipe, swipe, swipe. Delete, delete, delete. Every single night, like clockwork. The first time I noticed, I didn't think much of it. People clean out spam texts. Fine. The second week, I noticed it again. Same routine. Scroll, delete, phone face down on the nightstand, lights off. The third week, I started paying real attention. And that's when I realized it wasn't spam she was clearing. It was a full conversation thread, every night, gone before her head hit the pillow. I didn't say anything. I want to be clear about that, because a lot of guys in my position would have grabbed the phone right there and demanded answers. I didn't. Something in my gut told me that confronting her would just teach her to get better at hiding it. So I smiled, said goodnight, and let her keep deleting. Instead, the next morning, I called our phone carrier. Here's something most people don't realize. If you're on a family plan and you're the account holder, or even just an authorized user, you can request duplicate detailed billing. Not just the total charges, the actual itemized call and text log, numbers included, timestamps included. Doesn't matter if she deletes the thread on her end. The carrier keeps a record of who texted, who and when, for months. I called, gave my account information, and asked for full itemized statements going back 90 days. The rep on the phone was almost bored about it. Sure thing, I can email you a PDF of that within 24 hours. Just like that. No interrogation, no suspicion, no drama. 24 hours to change my entire life. That night, I watched her do the routine again. Scroll, delete, phone down, lights off. I lay there in the dark thinking about how calm she looked doing it. Not nervous, not guilty. Practiced. Like she'd done this so many times, it had become as automatic as brushing her teeth. The next afternoon, the email came through. I opened the PDF at my desk at work because I didn't want my face doing anything stupid in front of her before I had the full picture. There it was, a number that showed up almost every single night, starting around 10:15 p.m. and running until sometimes 1 or 2 in the morning. Dozens of texts a night. Every night, 7 days a week, for at least the last 3 months of the billing cycle. No calls to this number, ever, just texts, hundreds and hundreds of them. I didn't recognize the number, so I did what any reasonable person does. I searched it. Nothing came up publicly, no name attached, just flagged as a mobile number from 2 states away. That told me she wasn't just texting some random guy from around here. This was somebody she'd met somewhere else, or somebody actively trying to stay untraceable. I sat at my desk for a solid 10 minutes, just staring at the screen. My coworker walked by, asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine, just tired. I was not fine. I was doing math in my head, working out that 3 months of nightly deleted texts probably meant this had been going on a lot longer than 3 months. The carrier just didn't have older records readily available. I didn't confront her that night either. I know how that sounds. But I've learned something from watching enough of these situations play out, and it's this. The second you tip your hand, they start covering their tracks. I wanted the full picture first. So I called my buddy Marcus, who's a family law attorney, has been for 12 years, handled my cousin's divorce a while back, and did a genuinely great job. Told him everything. He didn't even hesitate. "Don't confront her yet," he said. Document first. Screenshots of the billing statement, dates, times, everything. If you want to actually build a case instead of just having a fight, you need a paper trail she can't argue with. How do I get more than 3 months back? Ask for a full account history export. Carriers keep records way longer than they advertise, especially if you frame it as needing it for tax or business purposes. Just ask nicely. I called back the next day and told the rep I needed the full account history for a personal matter, going back as far as they could pull. Took a few days, but I got a spreadsheet covering the last 14 months. 14 months. The mystery number showed up starting exactly 10 months prior. 10 months of nightly texting that ended every single time with her deleting the evidence before bed. Meanwhile, I kept living our completely normal life. Dinner, small talk about her job, weekend plans with her sister, all of it just background noise now while I quietly built a file on my own wife. I started keeping a private folder on a cloud drive she didn't have access to. Screenshots of the billing records, a timeline I built out by hand, dates cross-referenced with her schedule, work trips, girls' nights, the whole thing. Marcus told me the timeline would matter more than anything else because patterns are what convince judges, not accusations. About 2 weeks into this, I decided I needed to know who the number belonged to, not just the digits. I couldn't legally pull her private messages, but I could do a reverse number trace through a paid lookup service, which is public information, nothing illegal about it. Turned out the number belonged to a man named Jason, 34 years old, registered 2 states over, in the city where Melissa's annual work conference happened to be held every year. Suddenly, her yearly conference trip made a whole lot more sense. I didn't say a word, kept smiling, kept doing the dishes, kept watching her delete her messages every night like she was covering up a crime scene, which, as it turned out, she absolutely was. Marcus suggested I get a private investigator for the next work trip, just to have something concrete beyond phone records, because phone records alone can sometimes be argued away as just a friend or work contact. I hired one. Cost me a little over $2,000 for a 3-day trip, but by that point I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about the last 10 months of my life being one long, well-rehearsed lie. The conference came. Melissa packed her bag Sunday night, kissed me goodbye Monday morning, told me she loved me, and left for the airport. I told her to have a good trip. Meant it in a way she absolutely did not expect. The investigator's report came back 4 days later. Photos. Hotel check-in. Same room number as Jason. Dinner together at a restaurant 2 blocks from the conference hotel. Hands across the table. And one photo, time-stamped 11:47 p.m., of the 2 of them walking back into the hotel together, her hand in the back pocket of his jeans. I sat with that for a long time. Not crying, honestly. Mostly just numb. 10 months of nightly deleting, and this was the reveal. Not dramatic, not a soap opera twist, just quiet, cold proof. I called Marcus. "I'm ready," I said. "File it. You sure? Once we file, there's no walking it back. I've had 10 months to walk it back. She didn't take a single one of those opportunities. He had the paperwork drafted within a week. I didn't say a word to Melissa. Didn't change my behavior. Didn't confront her. Didn't even ask about the trip beyond the standard, 'How was it?' She said it was great, very productive, learned a lot. I nodded and asked if she wanted pasta for dinner. The papers were served 11 days after she got home. She was folding laundry when the process server knocked. I was in the garage, pretending to organize tools, listening through the door. "What is this?" Her voice cracked through the wall. I walked in. "Divorce papers!" She stared at the folder like it was written in a language she didn't understand. "What? Why? Where is this coming from?" asked Jason. Her face went the color of printer paper. "Who told you about? How do you even?" "You did," I said. "Every night, actually. You just didn't realize the carrier keeps a copy even after you hit delete." She sat down on the arm of the couch like her legs had stopped working. "You've known?" "About 10 months' worth, give or take. You've been planning this the whole time?" "I've been documenting the whole time." There's a difference. You've been planning this the whole time, too. You just called it business trips. She started crying. The kind of crying that's more about getting caught than actual remorse. It's not what you think. It started as just talking. I never meant for it to. 10 months, Melissa. Every single night. That's not an accident. That's a second relationship you were running in parallel to ours. So you're not even going to let me explain? You had 10 months. Every night you had the chance to just tell me. Instead, you deleted the evidence and climbed into bed next to me like nothing happened. She reached for the folder. I need to call my mom. Feel free. Everything from here goes through my lawyer. I grabbed my keys and left her sitting there with the papers and an unopened laundry basket. Stayed at a hotel that night. Haven't spent a night back in that house since. Update 1, 5 days later. The text started almost immediately. Apologies first, dozens of them. How sorry she was, how it meant nothing, how she'd end it with Jason completely, how she just felt neglected and lonely and made a horrible mistake. I didn't respond to any of them. Marcus's advice was simple. Document, don't engage. Day 3, her mother showed up at my office. Genuinely didn't expect that one. Security called up to let me know there was a woman causing a scene downstairs, refusing to leave until she spoke to me. Went down, found her practically vibrating with anger. You destroyed my daughter over one mistake, she said, loud enough that the whole lobby heard it. 10 months of nightly texting until 2 a.m., a hotel room 2 states away, and a private investigator's photos say it was a little more than one mistake. Her face flickered, just slightly, telling me she hadn't gotten the full story either. She said it was one trip. It was one trip that I have proof of. The texting had been going on for almost a year. Her mother didn't have a response for that. Security walked her out. Day 5, the guilt calls started from mutual friends, the ones Melissa had clearly already gotten to first. She's really struggling, Derek. Don't you think you're overreacting? I gave the same answer every time. She spent 10 months deleting messages to another man every single night. I'm not overreacting. I'm just done being lied to. Most of them went quiet after that. Update 2, 3 weeks later. Melissa's lawyer sent an aggressive opening letter asking for half the house, which is in both our names, half my retirement, and spousal support given the emotional toll of the separation. Marcus laughed out loud, reading it over the phone. She's asking for support because of the emotional toll of an affair she caused? That's the letter. We're going to have fun with this one. We countered with the phone records, the itemized statements, the timeline, and the investigator's photos, all cleanly organized in a binder that Marcus said was the most well-documented affair case he'd handled in years. Her lawyer's tone changed noticeably in the follow-up call. Suddenly, the aggressive language about spousal support quietly disappeared. Then came the deposition. Her lawyer tried to frame me as cold and calculating for investigating my own wife instead of simply asking her directly. Mr. Reyes, you spied on your wife instead of confronting her like an adult. I called my own phone carrier and requested my own account's billing history. That's not spying. That's reading a bill I'm legally entitled to. You hired a private investigator to follow her. After 10 months of nightly deleted messages to an out-of-state number, yes. Don't you think that shows a lack of trust in the marriage? The lack of trust started the night she began deleting messages before bed. I just decided to actually find out why. Her own deposition didn't go much better for her. Her lawyer tried to argue the relationship with Jason was purely emotional, nothing physical, right up until my lawyer produced the hotel photo with the timestamp and the room key receipt the investigator had pulled from a public checkout record. Ma'am, can you explain this photograph? Long pause. We were just walking back to our separate rooms. Room 412 was booked under his name for one guest. Room service that night was ordered to that same room at 12:20 a.m. Was that your order? Longer pause. I don't remember. You don't remember ordering room service 20 minutes after this photo was taken? She didn't have an answer for that one. Somewhere around this time, Melissa apparently decided the internet needed to hear her side of things. Her sister sent me a screenshot. Not to stir anything up, just genuinely confused about what she was reading. The post read something like, "Going through the hardest thing of my life right now. Sometimes the people you trust most turn cold the second you make one mistake. Grateful for real friends who don't judge." No names, obviously, but everyone in our shared circle knew exactly who she meant. The comments were split about 50-50, which honestly surprised me. Some people offered the usual sending love and stay strong type support. Others weren't buying it. One of her old coworkers commented, "Didn't you tell me you were seeing someone else for like a year, though?" That comment got deleted within the hour, but not before 4 different people had already screenshotted it and sent it straight to me. I didn't post anything, didn't comment, didn't even like anything. Marcus's advice held steady the whole way through. Stay off social media. Let her dig her own hole in public while I quietly built mine in a folder she couldn't see. Turns out, a hole dug by someone who's used to deleting evidence gets pretty deep pretty fast. A few days later, I got a message out of nowhere from a woman I'd never spoken to before. Said her name was Alicia. Mentioned she used to date Jason a couple years back before things ended badly. Said she saw a mutual friend's comment thread and put 2 and 2 together. She wasn't trying to stir drama, just wanted me to know the pattern wasn't new. Apparently, Jason had a habit of running these late-night texting relationships with women who were already in serious relationships, always long distance, always low commitment, always ending the same way once things got real. She sent screenshots of some of his old messages to her, uncomfortably similar in tone to what I imagined Melissa had been getting for 10 months straight. I forwarded all of it to Marcus. He said it wouldn't change the settlement math much, but it was useful context in case anyone tried to spin a "she's the real victim here" narrative during mediation. Update 3, 2 months in. The financial picture got messier before it got better. Turned out Melissa had used a chunk of our shared savings account to cover flights and hotel stays for 2 solo work trips that were never actually solo. My lawyer flagged it immediately as dissipation of marital assets, which basically means spending shared money on an affair counts against her in the settlement. Her family tried one more intervention. Her dad called me directly this time, actually reasonable at first. "Look, I know she messed up. But is this really worth ending a 9-year relationship? Sir, with respect, she spent 10 months deleting nightly messages to another man, spent our joint savings funding trips to see him, and only stopped when she got caught red-handed. What would you have done?" Silence, then a sigh. "I'd probably be pretty upset too. That's all this is. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being accurate." He didn't push after that. The mediation session was almost anticlimactic by comparison. With the phone records, the financial trail, and the investigator's photos all laid out, her lawyer stopped fighting for anything close to a 50-50 split. We settled on her keeping her retirement account untouched, me keeping mine, the house getting sold with proceeds split based on our actual financial contributions, which favored me heavily since I'd covered the majority of the mortgage and zero spousal support given the circumstances. The final settlement took just under 4 months from the day papers were served to the day the judge signed off. Considering some of these things drag on for over a year, Marcus called it one of the cleanest fault-based settlements he'd seen in a while, mostly because there was simply nothing left to argue. Final update. It's been about 5 months since the divorce was finalized. Melissa moved 2 states over, unsurprisingly close to where Jason lives, though, from what her sister let slip to a mutual friend, that relationship didn't survive the transition from secret hotel meetups to actual daily life. Apparently, the excitement fades fast once you're just doing laundry together instead of sneaking around. I sold the house, split the proceeds like the settlement said, and bought a smaller place close to work. Quieter, cleaner, no nightly phone rituals to silently observe anymore. Biscuit came with me, obviously, and he's adjusted to apartment life better than either of us adjusted to the divorce. People ask if I regret the way I handled it, whether I should have just confronted her the first night I noticed the deleting. Honestly, no. If I'd confronted her early, she would have had time to cover her tracks, delete the carrier history request window, coach her story, maybe even convince me it was nothing. Instead, I let the evidence build itself, quietly, patiently, until there was nothing left for her to spin. The part that stuck with me most wasn't even the affair itself. It was watching her do that same nightly ritual for 10 months straight. Scroll, delete, phone down, lights off, completely calm, completely practiced, lying next to me like it was just another Tuesday. That kind of comfort with deception doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill you build slowly, one deleted thread at a time. My lawyer kept a framed copy of the first itemized billing statement in his office for a while, joked it was the cleanest paper trail he'd ever built a case from. Said most guys waste months trying to catch their spouse in the act, hiding in parking lots, checking browser histories, staging confrontations that go nowhere because there's nothing solid behind them. I just made one phone call to a customer service rep who couldn't have cared less about my marriage and let the paperwork do the rest. A few weeks after everything was finalized, I ran into an old friend from college at a coffee shop near my new place. Hadn't seen him in years. He asked how married life was treating me. Clearly hadn't heard anything through the grapevine yet. I gave him the short version. He just stared at me for a second, then said, "Wait, she deleted her texts every single night and you just called the phone company?" When I confirmed, he laughed so hard the barista looked over. That's the most quietly savage thing I've ever heard. Most guys would have smashed a mirror or something. I told him smashing mirrors doesn't hold up in family court. Itemized billing statements do. Melissa reached out one final time about a month after the divorce was finalized. A long email this time instead of a text. Said she was sorry for everything. Said she'd been in a bad place emotionally for a long time before Jason ever came into the picture. Said she wished she'd just talked to me instead of doing what she did. Ended it with, "I hope one day you can understand why I felt like I needed that." I read it twice. Didn't feel angry reading it. Mostly just felt distant, like reading a story about two people who used to matter to each other a long time ago. I didn't respond. Some doors don't need a final word to close properly. They just need you to stop standing in the doorway. To anyone reading this who's noticed something similar, a partner suddenly deleting messages every night, being cagey about their phone, taking calls in another room, trust that instinct. You don't have to confront right away. Sometimes the smartest move is the quiet one. Document everything you can legally access, your own bills, your own accounts, your own records. The truth usually doesn't need much help finding its way out once you stop looking away from it. Biscuit's doing great, by the way. Sleeps at the foot of my bed every night now. No phone rituals in sight, no deleted threads, nothing hidden. Just quiet. Turns out that's all I really wanted the whole time. Not revenge, not a courtroom win, not even the satisfaction of watching her scramble once the folder finally came out. Just quiet. A house where nobody's hiding a second conversation in the dark, where a phone face down on a nightstand doesn't mean anything other than someone's tired and ready for sleep. Some nights I still think about that first week. I notice the pattern. How easy it would have been to grab the phone right then and demand an explanation. How satisfying that moment probably would have felt for about 5 minutes before she cried her way into a story I couldn't disprove. Patience isn't always the flashy move. It's not the version of this story that makes for a dramatic confrontation scene. But it's the version that actually worked. The version where the truth built itself brick by brick until there was nothing left to argue with. Thanks for reading. If you want more stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because there's always another one waiting.